Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are about 45 minutes after market close on Friday, August 27th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. So SoFi coming down about 2.25% today on higher than average volume, 19.5 million. As you know, I've been saying I would like to see that volume just about exactly on green days, but we know that we haven't been able to muster that on green days, and so we happen to be getting it on red days at the moment. That's obviously not a great sign for the bulls. At least it's a great sign for the bears, and obviously is drawing the price down. Now the other factors here are this gap that we were pondering in last night's video. Would it come down to fill this gap? Obviously it came down to fill it and more. 14.15 would have filled the gap, so as we see, it dropped down and filled it very early today, and then filled it a couple of other times subsequent to then. And while we mentioned the gap, last night's video I had mentioned that gap, and I pinned a comment to the top. So a couple of things. This person talking about why they believe that how I had described gaps and filling gaps was incorrect, and that's cool. You should read through what they say. When they started to get into the realm of like, that is misleading, then I wanted to come in and sort of provide some additional context as to why I was saying the things that I was saying previously. So I provided some additional links here and sort of pointed out some of the context. Now I haven't had a reply since then, which is fine. The big thing I want to know is if this was the article that he's referencing, because he has put 91.7%. This article actually references 91.4, but that may have just been a typo. Everyone makes mistakes, so if so, not a big deal. But I bring this up because I would like to say these are interesting things that we can unpack. Something like this, something like dark pools, something like short selling, something like max pain. These to me are interesting factors in the marketplace, period. And as they sort of like intersect with SoFi, then we kind of like run into them in that context. But the degree to which you'd like to come in and add your voice to this thread, your thoughts on gaps and gap filling and what you see from those articles or other articles, if you want to share other articles there, I'm going to leave that pinned to the top of last night's video, and I would encourage you to come in and do so. Now, in the spirit of wanting to additionally unpack some of these things and get other viewpoints from outside of myself or whoever's watching and replying to these videos, I did reach out to the authors of both of these articles to see if they would be willing to either come on and do an interview like separately, and wasn't wanting them to like debate or anything, but see if either of them would be willing to do like a standalone interview on the channel, and or do an interview via exchange in an email. So I would ask questions, they would answer them, and if I needed clarification, I would ask follow-up questions and then present those on the channel. I'd prefer the first option, but we'll see if either of them respond and are willing to come on and talk about their studies and what they found, and how they think that pertains to the market as we are engaging with it today. So I just wanted to make a mention of that. But at this point, that gap is filled, and so that just made me think of it. But the other thing, obviously, this 1411 zone that we had plotted, we see it struggled with that early on in the day, and then looked like it was going to leave it nicely, even retested it. But then on this additional test later in the day, fell through. Now, as you would have known if you saw my videos earlier in the week, I took a position on this day, and on this day, I think I'm capturing those correct, Tuesday and Wednesday, I think. And I had said at that time I was fine if these came down, these being the price, if the price came down and tested this 1411 level, then I would be okay with that. But if it fell below and clearly established 1411 as resistance, then I would strongly consider closing those short-term positions and looking for a new entry point, because to me, if it's actually losing support there, 1305 is the next level down as I see it. So where I stand at the moment is it looks like it's battling this 1411 zone. It's within 2 pennies of that right now in the aftermarket. And so it doesn't appear to me as though it's clearly leaving that zone and treating that as resistance. We'll have to see what happens in the pre-markets and on Monday. That could certainly change, and it could certainly develop this as sheer resistance and then work itself lower. And if that's the case, then I would make my trade and adjust it accordingly, but that's why you have a trading plan, right? And I don't think anyone should ever be ashamed of having a trading plan and sticking to it, and or acknowledging that they lost on a position. No one is winning all the time, and most people aren't winning most of the time. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so that's where that's my plan at the moment, from what we see here. Now, SoFi finishing very, very close, like I said, to this 1411 zone. The other factor that there's been a lot of chatter about in the comments and whatnot is from, I think this is the same person, Paul, who drops comments a lot about Max Pain and manipulation. He tweeted me earlier today, just after noon, and said the max has moved from 15 down to 14.5. That's reflected on Swaggy as well. Make sure I got the right ticker here. Yep, SoFi. Swaggy, Max Pain, 14.5. And so here he says, compliments of more at the money gamble buys. Maximum movement, ideally it would close in upper 1440s. So we don't see it closing in the upper 1440s or 1450, but we do see it closing within just a few pennies of that 1411 support and resistance zone that I had plotted previously. So this is not a battle of who's right, but it's just trying to dissect as things sort of unfold, what's sort of keeping pace and when things hit and when things miss, right? And so it's all sort of in flux as time goes on, of course. That's another thing that I want to do deeper dives into, and whether it's talking to some folks that are around the channel or seeking out some folks who've done extensive research and studies into different theories, such as Max Pain. I want to dive deeper into those things as well, because the idea that during times of heavy manipulation, one could sort of relatively realistically target Friday close prices to align with Max Pain could be super valuable. But of course, we're going through that experientially right now, and it would be good to have somebody on who can talk about it more theoretically and talk about it more from the perspective of the longer term view of data and research, and not just what's happening on any one given Friday, or a few Fridays that happen to be in a row consecutively with each other. But anyway, that's a lot of different factors coming in. But I don't know if there's much more to talk about with the chart at this point. There's obviously a big gap here. If you go to that pinned discussion from yesterday's video that I mentioned with the gaps, there's a mention of this gap as well. And like I said, feel free to check it out. Click through those links if you want. Share other links, share your own thoughts, what have you. But to my mind, I'd really, like I keep saying, I want to see the green days kick up the volume, not the red days. That's, to me, a very, very important factor in the vast scheme of things. We still see these green days, the last few ones, 13.2, 13.4, 13.7, and then these last two red days, 16.6, 19.4. So picking up heavy volume on a Friday, unfortunate. And also, again, like we said, on a Friday when the macro forces were definitely strongly leaning green. So the other things to look at here, I think just the one other thing that I thought we would do an update on, and I can refresh old Ortex here. Shorts continuing to peel off today. So even though it's getting pushed down, I don't know if they're just content with closing out positions and taking profits and not really coming in too much more heavily at the time, or for the time being, but they continue to roll down. Utilization now under 50. Short interest, again, sitting under 10% for the second day in a row. I think on Wednesday it was over, but I think yesterday and today it came down under. But we'll see how that progresses. Could certainly change over time. The order flow from today, just nothing happening, large scale order wise. So we've been tracking that pretty heavily, but nothing happening. I don't know if a bunch of this medium outflow was folks who had previously been locked up, liquidating some of those shares or not. I don't know. That's not even speculation. That's just a question. I don't know. But that's just to say, we saw the vast majority of this outflow coming really, really heavy in these medium-sized orders, 37% to 23, and then the small orders were much, much closer, right? 20 to 18. So just walking through what we can see. But yeah, that's where we stand today. Certainly not an exciting way to end the week, that's for sure. And essentially having peeled back the gains that we had seen earlier in the week, plus a little bit more, I believe. From Monday's open, we are down further on Friday than we were at any point in the week, from what I'm seeing here. So yeah, the 20th was last Friday. All right, folks. Well, I hope that regardless of this, that you had a good trading week. I hope that you enjoy your weekend, and that, not that anything, but just that I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.